Okay, so forget starting this video with a greeting of any kind because I was looking over some of the videos I had recorded commentary-wise during the trip and realized the commentary alone before even getting to Epic Universe was over 30 minutes. So in the interest of everyone's time, I'm going to re-record my commentary in a much more condensed fashion because there is quite a bit to go through here. And honestly, so much happened that I'm having to use my journal as like a guide through this video in order to make sure I don't forget anything important. So as this video progresses along, I'm gonna be going over a lot of the expenses that it cost me throughout the trip from beginning to end. I'm gonna start with totaling up the unavoidable or the needs expenses like food, gas, that sort of thing. And then I'll do a separate total for the souvenirs that I bought because that's going to be unique to everybody. So it's not exactly going to be a reflection of what your experience is going to be like if you decide to take this trip. And then I'm going to total it out overall with both of those sums. Now, some receipts did get lost. So I wasn't able to account for everything, but I got them at like a good 99.9%. And I'll cover that when I actually go over how much everything cost me for this trip, so that if you guys decide to take a trip like this, you'll have a general idea of how much it cost me and how it might cost you. And then you realize that it was actually more realistic to do a trip like this than what you originally thought. So day one, I got off of work at 7 a.m., went back home, got showered up and everything, had a full tank of gas in the truck before starting this trip. And I drove from North Carolina all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. I started my trip in the Atlanta History Center, which is a museum of sorts. It is there that the Swan House is located. And for those that don't know, the Swan House is a filming set for the Hunger Games series. It's the location of President Snow's mansion. It's also a wedding venue, all this stuff. I don't even want to think about how much a wedding there would cost. It was really interesting just walking around this place. The museum itself had a bunch of things to offer as well. Now, me being a firefighter and all that, a couple of things were fascinating to me. I did manage to find an exhibit that was based off the Great Atlanta Fire and all of that stuff. It even had all kinds of fire service artifacts from way back in the day. Now, it's important to note that my ticket to get into this museum was $24. That was with a first responder discount. That's not something that I go out and actively look for in any place that I go. Like, I don't like to ask for that. It makes me uncomfortable. So I just leave it to any business owners or places that I go to take that initiative themselves. Moving on, my next stop, also in Atlanta, and through some downright nightmarish traffic, the Marriott Marquis is, and I assume that's the proper pronunciation, but that is another Hunger Games filming site. It is the tribute center in the series. That place was really something to behold. I parked on a parking deck next door, which is about $5 because it charges you for the amount of time you spend in it. You go through the front door to enter this place. You start out going up this really skinny escalator, and there's like open space above, to the side, and below you. Really is kind of, it makes you a little wobbly just going up the escalator alone. What I can say about the Marriott Marquis and the Swan House, especially in reference to the Hunger Games movies, it's that the movies do a pretty good job, but they in no way do justice to just how gigantic these places are. The true scale of everything. And it was also cool in my mind to think I could have possibly been walking in the same footsteps as the actors that went in those places. By this point in the day, it was after lunchtime, and I was ready to get the heck out of Atlanta because I live out in the country, so I'm not that big on driving in the city. The roads are like way too skinny for my taste, and there's too many people, too much going on. My next stop, it was just after lunch, I went to the Dwarf House, which is a really cute specialty Chick-fil-A restaurant. It looks kind of vintagey on the outside, but on the inside, there's all kinds of stained glass windows, small doors, lanterns hanging from the ceiling that make it look like there's fire inside of them. It's a really cute place. They also, because it's a specialty Chick-fil-A, have specialty menu items, including cornbread muffins, which were absolutely fantastic. It was after that that I made the drive, which was about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more, from Atlanta to Macon, Georgia, which is where I went and stayed at my first hotel, which I only booked one night. The Country Inn and Suites cost me $101.73. And then for dinner, I had Waffle House right next door, which, you know, Waffle House, it's good, but it's crazy expensive for what you get. And it was about $18, and I got a waffle and hash brown bowl. Which brings me to day 2 of this whole excursion. I had a small breakfast at the hotel because breakfast was included. Immediately got on the road between 6 and 7 a.m. at this point, like the sun hasn't even risen yet. And I drove about 45-ish minutes south to Buc-ee's. This was my first time being at a Buc-ee's at all. And it's really true what they say. It's not just a gas station or a convenience store. It's an experience. This stop was my first fuel up. Pretty amazing, not gonna lie, on gas mileage. But I spent $60 to fill up my tank full. Went inside and bought a couple of food items and whatnot, like some Buc-ee's chocolate. Of course, I had to try the brisket. That's the only thing that I always hear people talk about. And I also didn't want to leave without getting some sort of souvenir. Not that I'm a big alcohol drinker, but I thought this was pretty cute. It's a little shot glass with the Buc-ee's beaver on it, and it's shaped like a barrel and looks like it has planks of wood. Hopping back on the road, I would make a no-stop drive to Orlando in Florida, which was about another 5.5 hours, give or take. But I ended up arriving into Orlando around lunchtime. My first stop, Fire Station 1 for challenge coins and a couple of souvenirs for my guys. I ended up finding the street level parking area. For the short amount of time that I spent on there, that ended up costing me only $3, so I was pleasantly surprised by that. And what I can say, for all of the cities that I visited throughout this whole trip, they each had their own unique character or style or look to them. But there were certain areas that were honestly beyond beautiful. So like I said, my first stop was Fire Station 1, which they also call the Big House. That's kind of their headquarters. They ended up not having any challenge coins, but I was able to get a couple of t-shirts for my guys and whatnot. I sat there and I chatted with them a little bit before heading on my way. Now at this point, I was feeling pretty urgent because that was another 5.5 hours in the truck and I still have yet to find a bathroom. And I decided not to ask them to accommodate me in that way as well because they had already accommodated me so much. And it was during their lunch hour and I didn't want to bother them too much more than what I had to. So I walked a little bit down the street to the Jimmy John's. Now, the only thing is you have to buy something there in order to use the restroom, which I was all too willing to do. 2 birds with 1 stone. Jimmy John's ended up costing me about $11.38 and all I bought was just the sandwich because I still had stuff to drink in the truck. Leaving from there, I went to Fire Station 2. Nobody was home, so I wasn't able to get in there. So then I traveled to Fire Station 12. Those guys were super nice as well. I think we were just a little bit after lunchtime at this point, but still no challenge coins. But what I was able to get from them, and this cost me about $16 because I bought 2 of them and gave one to somebody else that I knew would appreciate it. They have their own unique patch. Here's the patch for Fire Station 12 in Orlando. So interestingly enough, Fire Station 10 is the fire station that services the theme parks in Orlando, like Universal and all that. Station 12 is the backup station. My next stop was a little bit south of what I would call the more touristy section of Orlando, which is on the west side where all the theme parks are and everything. I stopped by this other store just to buy some gifts for some people that I knew they would appreciate. Then on my way back, I stopped somewhere else that a friend of mine told me about that they had been to, which sounded interesting to me. Kind of back in the more touristy side of Orlando, and that was a comic book shop that has a bar in the back of it. You walk in, it's like how most comic book stores go. There's all kinds of pop culture, memorabilia, comic books, that sort of thing. But then there's this door in the back right corner that opens up to this bar. And let me tell you, this place was something else. And I wasn't even there during operating hours. There is so much in this place that you could look at the same spot 3 different times and still notice something that you missed before. The overall theme is after the video game and show series Fallout. So you're basically in a nuclear bunker and they have the Fallout theme soundtrack playing in the background. There's all kinds of references to Gravity Falls. They have several vintage book covers of science fiction novels like War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still. There is a full-sized egg, face hugger, and xenomorph in one corner, and the lighting was so perfect it made it look like the xenomorph was like poking its head out of the shadows. Now, the parking lot for this place happens to also share with a police department. There happened to be a couple of police officers standing out in the parking lot, so I decided to walk up and strike up a conversation with them. And that's where I finally obtained a challenge coin, was able to trade some of mine for theirs. So this is the challenge coin that he gave to me, and this is a very thick, weighty coin, I'm not gonna lie. try. And then on top of that, he was nice enough to give me an Orlando Police Department patch for free. He didn't have to do that. That was just super nice of him. So yeah, my fire guys got to pick up the slack because the police department came through where my fire guys didn't. That's all I'm going to say about that. So after that, I'm starting to get a little fatigued from all the driving around. So that at this point, I decided to go ahead and head to the hotel. Now this is a Universal hotel. It's one of the cheaper ones, and it's only a 5-minute drive from all of the parks. It's very centrally located. And that one is the Dockside Inn and Suites. So there's the full compound represented on the map. I was in Tower 1 in this little leg of it right here. The guy at the counter was so nice, he didn't need to do this, but he actually gave me a free upgrade to my room. So basically, I went from being a guy all by myself, having a 2-bed room because I didn't see any single bed rooms of any kind, to now having 3 beds in a room. So we're just gonna quickly move on from how sad that is and just go on to the next thing. So I booked 2 nights at this hotel, so that's also 2 nights of parking. The 2 nights cost me $488.25. Now I booked this back in like May. The parking was anywhere around, I want to say it was around like $24 a night, so it ended up being a total of $48. And so I got settled, and then I decided to explore the hotel a bit, and it has everything from 2 pools, an arcade. It even has its own dedicated Universal Studios shop. Like there was no Epic merch in there, but there was a whole bunch of Universal stuff and a huge Harry Potter section in case you wanted to gear up before your trip to the parks. But it also had its own food court. It's got a couple of different bars. I stopped by one of the bars because I saw something on the menu that sounded interesting to try, and that ended up costing me about $19.98, and I believe the bartender's name was Natalie. Super kind person. Yeah, just an absolute delight to talk to. So the nice thing about this hotel is that you don't have to leave the hotel to get any of your needs like food and whatnot, so you can just get everything right there, and they got their own parking deck as well. The food court, I ended up getting one of the pizzas and some water, so that came out to about $17.57. Now, what's fun is I looked out my window, and the particular room that I was in, I was on the 5th floor. About the 2nd or 3rd time that I looked out this window, I realized that I could see something from my room that I didn't notice the first time. Check it out. You can see Hogwarts Castle from my room. That was pretty amazing, especially because I hadn't planned to visit the specific park that has the castle in it. So now the day has arrived for my park visits. So I booked 2 separate days. So 1 day geared towards Epic Universe, plus 1 day at literally any other Universal Studios park. And so those tickets ended up costing me $276.89 for the second park day, which was at Universal Studios. The parking, because I had left the hotel entirely checked out, the parking for that cost $32. They know they got you. I mean, where else are you gonna park? Got up early, hopped on the shuttle to Epic Universe that first day, and there again, I can't say enough to the grandeur of this place even before you actually get into the park. You could really tell that they put so much into building this place, from architecture to ambiance, everything. And yeah, all of the architecture in the central area and the entrance is celestial themed. All kinds of orbs, lights, swirling patterns. So many pieces of the architecture are constantly moving. Like it really is a very celestial and ethereal looking place. And it immediately like throws you in. It's fully immersive. Okay, I'm still not happy with it. There's way too much commentary and it's getting really boring, so I'm just gonna let a lot of the videos that I took speak for themselves. Okay, continue.
seat accommodations will be supported on level 7 at any time. If you plan on attending the race, be prepared to arrive in Copperberg early to cheer the starters.
The story of the ride is that it's the day of Umbridge's trial and she escapes with the help of Death Eaters, and there's a big battle that goes through the Ministry. It really amazes me how they have blended practical with the use of screens to really make the space feel real and immersive. It was there that I bought 2 pens, this little Metro Flu pen. I just love the color scheme on it. Check this out. The Ministry of Magic Aura badges. Now, the fact that they were 2 pens, they were about $14 each, because you got to remember where you're at. The 2 pens together were $29.82. I ended up buying some Ilvermorny merch to represent the American school. A pin that is the crest. This is what it looks like right here. It's a journal with the name of the school and the crest on it as well. Both of those together ended up costing me about $41.54.
Been around for a long time, Sir Cadogan?
Yes!
Yeah, oh, this is Sir Cadogan, Jacob. He's a knight of the Round Table. Sir Cadogan, say hello, sweetheart.
Very pleased to meet you.
Yeah, Sir Cadogan loves dragons and, you know, battle and everything a knight likes. Except he does fall asleep a lot. I'm not sure why. Oh, gosh. You see, the minute I mentioned it, he's out like a light. Well, there we go. It's rather strange. Oh, he's back. Isn't he odd? So where are you headed to next? Have you been to the circus? Oh, Jacob, you must see the circus. It's quite brilliant. And have you helped them at the Ministry of Magic in the Metro Flu? Ah, well done!
Yes!
Excellent. Good job then. Well, I'm not sure what time the circus starts. A bit later, I think. But as soon as it does, you must go. I think you'd enjoy it a lot. All right. Now, before you go, darling, you know, I am Cassandra Trelawney, Mistress of Divination. So I'm going to look into my crystal ball and give you a quick reading. Oh, Jacob, I see you journeying to a land of dragons. How exciting. And also a place with little mushroom people. I don't know where that is, but, well, you're going there. So have fun today, darling, and enjoy your time in Paris, all right?
Essentially, you find a table, you open up the Universal app, and that's how you order the food. You gotta find the restaurant, then order your food from there and put in your table number. So I purchased the Butterbeer crepe and lavender lemonade because it just sounded interesting. And I ended up buying at least 3 lavender lemonades by the end of this visit because it was that amazing. But the Butterbeer crepe, I've never had anything quite like this. Like, that is probably one of the most delicious things I've ever had in my life. Might be a new favorite. The crepe and the lemonade together ended up costing me about $21.29. I immediately went to Hooligans, Grog, and Gruel. I was after the macaroni and cheese bread cones, and I got the classic one, which was a bread cone full of mac and cheese and goldfish. Forget the goldfish. The mac and cheese and the bread combined the way that it was absolutely delicious. Like, that is worth returning back to Epic in and of itself. The bread cone ended up costing me $17.03. And there's also a secondary portal in this land that takes you to Donkey Kong Country. would describe the show as a miniature, dialed back Cirque du Soleil with some added animatronics for the beasts. But yeah, it was a pretty cool show. This land is themed over the classical monsters like Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman. I ended up going on one of the rides in that land, which was in Frankenstein's Castle, which is a simulation ride of sorts. It's very similar to the Forbidden Journey, where you're on like a four-seater and it's on this articulating arm that spins and lurches and moves you around and interacts with screens and animatronics.
Lower the lights, quickly. Now. These people are friends. See? There's...
But moving on from there, I went back again to the Harry Potter land to finally start doing my shopping. Different day, still filming commentary. Here we go. Overall aesthetic of everything and all the different wand designs had their own display case with different details inside of those cases. Like the oak wand had like a pearlesque look to it and it had seashells on a bed of sand. Even had a phoenix wand that was on a bed of ash with a phoenix feather in there with. I told myself I would never buy another wand because I have way too many. I'll admit I have a problem. But this particular area has unique wand designs that you can't get anywhere else, and even the boxes they come in. And on top of that, they're all interactive to different spots in the park. And so I caved and I did end up buying one, and that's the dogwood wand, which it kind of reminds me of home, and its display case had it amidst a bunch of dogwood branches with the white blossoms and everything. So that was really neat. This is what the box looks like on the end there. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There you go. It says dogwood on the end. Even the way that they open up is unique in of itself. And so what it automatically comes with is information about the wand itself. It has a map of the now 3 different parks that have the interactive spots. So of course you have on one side Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, and on the other side the French section. I gotta say, the map alone is a cool enough souvenir to have. I'll now show you the wand itself, which I absolutely just loved the design of. And honestly, it reminds me of the French architecture aesthetic that the Fantastic Beasts films had. And so here it is right here. And as you can see, like, this design is just all around very ornate and just follows that aesthetic all the way around. and I couldn't say no to it. And so that one set me back at about $69.23. But I personally think it's worth it because not only do you get the box, you get the unique design, and it's interactable at different wand casting spots throughout the park. I will say it is not among the second generation wands that everybody keeps hearing about. So be mindful of that. I also got my sweet shop shopping done, and this place is really cool too because it's part candy shop, but it's also got a counter with all different flavors of fudge behind it that you can make orders at as well. The shop is called K Ramel, and I have a little bag here that kind of shows their name and logo. And I think everybody's pretty well figured out the fun little pun with the name. I don't need to call too much attention to that. This is the bag that I ordered the Butterbeer caramel in. You know, it's not really my favorite, but it was still a pretty good and unique flavor, I have to say. And it smelled amazing too, not gonna lie. Among the other items that I purchased at the sweet shop was a couple of tins because I just really appreciated the overall design of them. So I bought the Butterbeer Jelly Bean tin. Now, what I will say about the Butterbeer flavor, I've seen it done really right, like at the theme park overall, but I've also seen it done very wrong. And the beans are definitely an example of very wrong, and so are some of the gummies I've seen out there on the market. I overall bought it for just the tin itself, and so there's that right there. I love this new design that they've come up with for the Butterbeer products. Another thing that I bought, because again, this is another unique item that you can only find in this location. I've purchased chocolate frogs in the past from this place. I've purchased the unique boxes for the milk chocolate, the white chocolate, the dark chocolate, even bought the metal tin they recently came out with that comes with the 5 unique cards. So, of course, I had to follow suit here because not only do they have a metal tin unique to this area, but it's also in French, and I am not even going to attempt to say the word for chocolate frog that's spelled out right here. You can come after me in the comments, I don't care. This one also comes with 5 unique cards, and they shape them just like they do in the films, not like the typical store-bought chocolate frogs that you'll see out and about. But a lot of them are French-oriented, like you have Nicolas Flamel, of course, and they're all lenticular, like the image moves as you move the card. And of course, they have information about the character on the back side, just like in the films. But you also have Newt, the main character of the Fantastic Beasts series, and others. I will say the chocolate frog, as far as flavoring goes, is pretty well the same. Like, I'm a huge chocolate guy, but the chocolate frogs at the theme park don't really connect with me in particular. But that's just my personal opinion. I've heard some people absolutely love it. But switching gears for a second here, there was another item that I bought at this shop that's, again, unique to this location. Can't get it anywhere else. And that's the Butterbeer flavored chocolate bar. And what was really cool about this is the appearance of the bar itself looks just like the drink. The underside is kind of that caramelly color, that bronze look, and the top part of the bar is white like the foam on top of the drink. It also smells freaking amazing. And the flavor is just as good as well. I ended up buying 2 of these and I kind of wish I would have bought more. I also kind of held off my purchasing of this until later in the day because again, it is Florida and it's very hot and I didn't want stuff to melt too bad. The overall price of everything that I bought at K Ramel is $79.88. So yeah, it wasn't cheap, and I ended up I had ideas to buy other things, but in the interest of kind of policing myself a little bit, I foregoed buying some of the other items because I was worried the chocolate would be too similar to the chocolate of the chocolate frog and that I wouldn't be that much about it. We're going to switch gears again and talk a little bit about some of the more interactive things that this park has, and that includes a lot of the actors that roam around in the middle of the crowd, and they do like a lot of crowd work and just, you know, make the place all around more immersive, and I had a pretty unique experience in that regard as well. At least 2 sets of magical school students walking around the crowd, and they're from 3 different schools, Beauxbaton, Hogwarts, and Ilvermorny, and each of them wear the uniforms that reflect that school. Now, from what I've seen on videos online, they go around starting dialogue related to Fantastic Beasts, even have a genuine monster book of monsters with actual stuff on the pages that they can show people and whatnot. I never got to interact with them. However, I did end up interacting with the Auror that patrols the French Ministry entrance on the back end of the park, and I also ended up interacting with Cosme Akajor herself. What's neat about the interactions I had with both of them is that I interacted with the 2 of them twice in that one day. And the second time I interacted with each of them, they remembered my name. And so that was really neat detail right there. What I can say for the 2 of them is that they are extremely good at their job. Like Universal, if you're watching, do not let either of them go. And again, I was on the park day, September 11th of 2025. For reference, you need to hold on to those two for as long as you can, because they obviously enjoy what they do. They're really good at establishing dialogue, making it feel immersive, and making you feel more comfortable talking to people in the park. Because someone like me who is very socially awkward, sometimes you need to coax me into a social interaction, especially if I don't know you. And so they're really good about getting you to talk to them in a comfortable way, I would say. And so, honestly, it made me enjoy the park experience that much more. Now, I will say, a little detail, I was wearing the Auror pin badge just as a curiosity to see what would happen. The actor playing the Auror, I believe his name was Lou Firm, if I remember correctly, he catches my attention, like, he calls out to me in the middle of the crowd, and I walk over there. And just to give testament on just how good he is at his job, he immediately clocks that I'm wearing the Auror pin badge, and then begins dialogue in reference to that. And so initially, I forgot where I was for a second there. I forgot that I was technically in 1927 France and in the wizarding world. So initially, I was horrendously tripping up on my words as far as how to respond to him, but eventually I kind of caught on and like did a little bit better. But we kind of like talked about how, you know, we kind of like made up this story of, okay, on loan from Makusa, working with the British Ministry on surveillance, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, just some little fun conversation like that. We basically end that interaction with, you know, him sending me on my way, like, you know, just keep an eye out for me. If you see anything suspicious, you know, you let me know. He shows me his badge and all that. And by the way, he is in Florida weather, fully decked out in a suit and tie and a fedora hat and the whole 1920s aesthetic. So props to him on that. But you can definitely understand why he hangs out in the more shaded area of the park. I end up looping back around and I realized that Cosme Akajor was interacting with people in the wand shop. So I was like, okay, it'd be cool to meet her. And I was kind of emboldened after having the conversation with the Auror. And so I walk in and she immediately like, you know, comes up to me and also clocks the Auror pin badge and starts conversation in reference to that. And I gotta say, I really appreciate and I absolutely love how extra her mannerisms and everything is when she talks to you. Like, she is very into her role. I kind of did a little bit better, made up some dialogue, referenced back to some things that happened in the Fantastic Beasts films, and she was, you know, she went right along with it. You know, she talks about how, you know, Bo-Katan couldn't contain her talent, so she branched off on her own to create her wand shop and all of her unique designs. And she also clocked that I was already holding the dogwood wand that I purchased earlier. And she's like, oh, well, you know, I see that you already made a purchase at my shop. Well, it's very obvious that you have great taste. And like just an absolute delight to talk to. And of course, she had to plant a little seed in my brain, like, you know, and nothing says that you can't have two wands. Just going to put that out there. But yeah, there again, absolutely wonderful to talk to. Like, I super enjoyed that dialogue there. Now, I will say there's another interactive area not far from there where there are 3 portraits kind of inside this little storefront in the back alley, and they're interactive portraits. There's somebody on the other side that's literally talking to you and having a conversation. So one of the portraits on the left is Sir Cadogan, who's a character that pops up primarily in the books and in some of the movie deleted scenes. He's a pretty comical driven character. You have another on the right that I can't remember the name of, but one in the middle. She's the one primarily doing the crowd interaction. She's leading the dialogue out of the 3 portraits. And there's spells that you can cast on them. Now, whoever they had voicing her for like the first half of the day, phenomenal job. She was hilarious, did great working with the crowd. Excellent job. So again, me and my socially awkward self finally emboldened to talk to them after talking with the Auror and Cosme. I decided to talk to them. I was in a line of about 3 people, and when I finally get up to the portraits, the exact opposite of what I wanted to happen took place, which, as I look back on it, I assume was them kind of switching shifts, because there's no way I got the same person. But the portrait said, like, oh, we'll be back with you here in a moment. You know, and she told me, stay right there. And I'm like, oh God, this is the exact thing I didn't want to happen. I didn't want all these people in this crowd staring at me while nothing is happening. This is very awkward. I'm super uncomfortable. But the portrait literally like falls asleep for 3 minutes. And when she finally comes back, whoever it was that switched shifts with her, you know, up to this point, they had been asking pointed questions that are easy to answer, like, oh, where did you travel from? Oh, What Hogwarts house are you? Stuff like that. Really easy to answer. However, this new person, guess what the first question out of her mouth was? How can we help you? What am I supposed to say? I was not prepared for this. To be quite honest, and I know I was looking through a portrait at somebody else, not actually seeing their face or how they're actually talking, because I'm sure there's some level of distortion there talking through the speakers or whatever. But I honestly got the feeling that whoever I was talking to was not into what they were doing at all, or at least they hadn't been doing it enough that day to be acclimated into doing it. Trying to give benefit of the doubt here. But oh my God, by the end of that interaction, I was so embarrassed and so uncomfortable that I extricated myself from that situation and walked down the alley as quick as I could. That's how bad I felt after talking to those portraits. Like I hope I don't get anybody in trouble, but oh my God, that whole entire interaction was extremely painful. So circling back around to the second time I interacted with the Auror, he was in a different location this time. Honestly, I didn't know he was there until I happened to walk around the corner and look up and we made eye contact again. Was not searching for him or anything. I was had my mind on something else, but he calls out to me again. And he made me feel better again with this whole interaction. This time he took the dialogue a little bit deeper. And so this is actually really cool. We talk more about, seeing suspicious things and whatnot. He actually references a couple of other park goers across the square there and was like, that lady over there is an associate of Grindelwald. You need to keep an eye on her. And he pulls out this little field note journal that he had in his little coat pocket. Basically saying that she was associated with this symbol and that he had written down in his book. And he opens the book and shows me, and it's the Deathly Hallows symbol, which of course was Grindelwald's symbol back in the day. Then he takes the opportunity to show me a couple of wand casting stances, and so that was really cool to have that interaction with him. And he's got this nice little wand holster that he pulls his wand out of, and even tries to encourage me to go purchase one myself, which, not gonna lie, heavily tempted to do so. So before we concluded that interaction, he reaches into his coat pocket again and pulls out this little card. For those that have seen the second Fantastic Beasts film, you would immediately recognize the symbol on it as the symbol for Nicholas Flamel. And he basically points me in the direction of the back alley back towards those interactive portraits and basically says, take this, go and meet with my associate, which is, of course, Nicholas Flamel. It's in that back alley that Nicholas Flamel's house is located. He said, I need you to confirm for me that the item is still in place where it belongs, which, of course, in my mind, I was like, he's got to be talking about the Philosopher's Stone. And I did end up confirming it because it was actually a interactive wand spot. You can reveal this box opens up and shows the Philosopher's Stone inside of it. So I did end up finding it. And he also said that I needed to make my way to the Goblet Noir restaurant, which is where all the patrons of ill repute go to hang out, essentially. And I need to find the Deathly Hallows symbol in there, which I also found. I got photo evidence. It was hanging up in a corner. So it was neat to actually make that connection there. And he told me that if I found those two things, I could come back to him and learn some more wand stances. And unfortunately, I never did end up having that third interaction with him because I was trying to free him up for the rest of the crowd and whatnot. So I halfway wonder if he did have other dialogue that he could use in that event that I did actually go up and meet with him a third time. But I also took that as the opportunity to purchase a frozen Butterbeer, which I remembered from past years was absolutely amazing. But I got it in the uniquely French souvenir cup. Now, I will say, it's not glass, it is plastic, so be wary of that. But I will say the design of it is just absolutely gorgeous. Look at the swirling patterns, characteristic of the French locations in the films and whatnot. And we're going back to that new Butterbeer label. What's neat about this mug is that on one side it says Butterbeer in English, but on the other side it says it in French. But yeah, this is gonna make a great addition to the shelf. By this point in the day, I was just doing some miscellaneous exploring in the French park, just again trying to take in as many details as I could, because not only was I trying to video my experience at this park, but I also just wanted to kind of step away from the phone a little bit at the same time. And even if I was recording, I wasn't looking necessarily at what I was recording. I was looking at the details myself, which may be why some of the videos look a little weird. But I wanted to make sure that I was experiencing it myself so I could remember, not just to have the pictures to look back on, but I wanted to look and take in everything. it was getting close to dinner time and I'd already pre-planned a restaurant, and that is going back to the Celestial Park. Towards the back of the park is the Blue Dragon, which is a Asian restaurant, and it was the orange chicken meal that caught my attention more than anything. Now, I will admit it is a little pricey because I'm pretty sure that dish was meant for more than one person, but I also ended up eating all of it. No shame here. That meal ended up costing me about $35.82, and the waitress there was super nice as well. It just made it all around a more enjoyable experience. So by the time I finished up there, it's starting to get later in the day. Fun fact here, I passed by a drink stand of sorts that had a statue on top that was holding what looked like a Coca-Cola bottle. At this point, I decided I wanted to go through the Ministry of Magic ride one more time because I just really enjoyed that experience. Now, by the time I entered, I knew I had enough time realistically to get through it because the wait time had gotten to a little over 2 hours at that point. I ended up finding out why. Part of the reason was because the ride itself was having issues, so everybody was kind of backed up. It wasn't too painful. I'm going to preface this next thing I'm going to talk about with a little bit of information about me. I had to research every single thing about this park when planning the trip and buying the tickets and everything. Like, the website was not intuitive at all. It's not organized well at all. Like, you think you'd put similar things on the same page or whatnot, but no, you have to back out like 3 pages and take a different route to find the information that you want. It's been 8 years since I've been to a Universal park. I don't know how certain things work. And so I got deep enough into the line of this ride and I saw this sign. You know, I'm by myself, so I was curious about what exactly the sign was referencing. It was saying single riders have less wait time. And so I was like, well, what does that mean exactly? Because I don't know. There was nothing on the website that said anything about this. In fact, there were a couple of things I found out the hard way that I was not pre-warned about, and I'll talk about that later. There was this one younger guy that was standing kind of at the far end of the Ministry atrium, kind of the exit tunnel of the ride after you get off of the ride itself. And so I kind of waved him over and I asked him, and I thought I asked it in a pretty straightforward way, like, you know, what exactly does this sign mean right here? Like, it's kind of vague, but not at the same time. Like, what does it mean? And he actually got kind of an attitude with me, and I just couldn't understand why. And like, he immediately like responds with like, so what are you asking me? I'm like, how more detailed can I possibly ask this question? Like, you know what I'm trying to ask. Just answer the question. Like, I don't know why you're getting bent out of shape over me like this. And there again, like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but like, I just feel like he could have approached that situation a little bit better, in my personal opinion. He lightened up a little bit when I just like asked him just to go in detail to explain what exactly it meant. Because there again, I don't know. It's been forever and a half since I've been to a place like this. And I'm by myself. I don't have people doing things for me. Just trying to gather some information here, my guy. But enough about him. I'm really glad that I went through the line of this ride a second time because I got to see an area that I didn't get to see the first time that I'd seen in videos, and that is Umbridge's actual office.
Which one?
Stand your trial or we'll cry! I did! Now I'm speaking in her court and Mrs. knows she's not! But if she did...
By the time I got out of the whole entire experience and walked outside, it was dark. And I have got to say, this place really comes to life at night. It was getting close to 10 o'clock by that point at night, which is when the park closes. And so I just wanted to walk around the different sites and just take it all in one last time, because there's no telling when I'm ever going to get the chance to come back to a place like this. Walking through the final portal to exit and head towards the shuttle bus area, it was that mixture of not wanting to leave, but also being super exhausted from just how many steps I got in that day. Like, my shoes were tight to begin with. Well, they're not anymore. I can definitely say that they are broken in. But one detail I forgot to cover earlier is that when I checked in for my hotel room, they gave me this card to get in and out of the room and the different places in the hotel. And it's got my information printed on it and everything. Like, it's unique to me, like not something that you would throw out or anything like that or give back, I would think. I mean, I didn't, as you can see. Hope that wasn't an issue. I don't think it ended up taking me very long to pass out that night after the long day of exercise that I had. The next morning is when I needed to check out of my hotel. Now, from what I understood, the checkout process is pretty well automatic based off of the days that you booked. So I never actually went through a checkout process, so I'm hoping everything just kind of went like it should on its own. But apparently there's some online way to do it as well over at the Lowe's Hotel website. I got everything packed up and left the hotel, and I made my way over to the Universal Studios park. So there again, I got there before the park itself opened, so I was able to kind of walk down the city walk and everything, get through the security check, all in good time. Park in the parking deck that's unique to that location. The line to get into this place was far shorter than the one to Epic, which I'm assuming is because Epic is the much newer park. So there was quite a bit of time that morning where I was just walking around by myself with hardly anybody in sight. Now, of course, I was on a mission as well to immediately head to the Diagon Alley section. I'm not going to spend too much time describing this day because most people know pretty much all that there is to know about this particular park.
Take it away. So, actually, you know what I just realized? Do you know what's the difference between Decker and
Mother mistakes wok for chopsticks and causes mayhem at Chinese restaurants. A global shortage of newspapers has risen due to taste.
An expose on underage women found in crime.
Let me just say, it doesn't matter how far away you are from this dragon, you can still feel the heat coming off of this thing when it breathes fire.
You may refer to me simply as Sir.
I kind of spent most of that time just kind of walking around, taking in the sights and filming and videoing the storefronts and all the stuff moving around in there. There was even an employee walking around there. Super cool guy. I wish I would have talked to him a little bit more, but he had this whole like Sirius Black thing going on. He was wearing the same uniforms as everybody else, which was like this button-up shirt, but his was kind of open down to here, and he had like center chest tattoos of some symbols, and he had really long hair, like almost spitting image of Sirius Black. So I wish I would have like talked to him about that a little bit more. Then I decided to head into Gringotts, which is a true to scale replica of the Gringotts lobby. The Escape from Gringotts ride is full of goblin animatronics that are at their desks. Like I said with the Ministry, the walk or the line to the ride is an experience in and of itself.
To have your Gringotts identification photo taken.
And so there's various offices with character names you'd recognize, moving picture newspapers. You even get to see Bill Weasley as a character talking with some goblins. They're kind of giving you a tour. The ride itself is a little bit different from the other two Harry Potter inspired rides. This is an actual roller coaster ride incorporated with some 3D screens here and there that are kind of simulation oriented. And so the story is that you're kind of alongside with the Golden Trio as they try to escape Gringotts after stealing the Horcrux from Bellatrix's vault. And so you get to kind of go alongside with them as they release the dragon and everything. Super cool experience. Now I remember from 8 years ago, there was a particular point at the start of the ride where the track that you're on gets blown up, and the ride literally does this number right here while you're stationary and just kind of inverts you, and you can just barely in the darkness make out the outline of this tunnel beneath you, and like what's coming next. You're in it. There's no getting away from it at that point. It lets go and drops you through this tunnel on this track. For me, that's the most difficult part of the ride to get through, the sheer drop. Like the rest of the ride is no problem. Now I had it built up in my mind from how I remembered it 8 years ago. Weirdly enough, going through it this time, was nowhere near as bad as I remembered it. And I actually even enjoyed it a little bit. Like in the past, when I'd been tricked onto roller coasters and whatnot, I would kind of like hold in the screams and just like strain my whole body, exhaust myself because it wasn't a enjoyable experience for me at all. But this time I could not keep the yell inside of me. Like I don't know what was different this go around, but there was no stopping it from coming out. Like it was happening. It deposits you out into one of the shops. Scribulus, I believe the name of it is. So honestly, what I ended up buying from the stores in this park was so small and compact, I was able to put it into the drawstring bag and not be overly weighed down. And I'm mostly stuck with items that are practical that I can actually use for other things. Over in Scribulus, they have a lot of stationery-oriented items. Quill pens, journals, stationery, even some passport holders. And so what I ended up buying from there, because I've majorly gotten into for years now the writing letters and sealing them with wax seals, which are very fun to make and put designs into and whatnot. I ended up buying a stationery set with the Deathly Hallows symbol on it. There's unique designs on the cards. There we go. 3 different ones there. And then there's what the envelopes look like. Now, another thing, I kind of ate the price a little bit just because of how unique it is. They have journals that look like textbooks from the films. So this one right here is the Hogwarts A History textbook. And I bought this for a couple of reasons. Not just because it has the same pattern on it as some of the books I remember from the earlier films. Also because it has an image of part of the castle on this side. Like I could not look at that and say no. And I also made my way back to Borgin & Burke's. You would be amazed, but it is extremely difficult to find a good quality metal keychain of the Deathly Hallows symbol. But that's what it looks like there. And the resurrection stone part of it spins around a little bit.
See you more clearly. Right over here. On this other side. Now, you may know that every elemental wand has a core of powerful magical substance. We use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No 2 elemental wands are the same, just as no 2 unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. Of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand. Let us begin. The best results must always come when there is the strongest affinity between wizard and wand. A wand made of hornbeam, 13 3/4 inches long, is durable with the dragon heartstring core. Alright. Now you see all of these boxes on this wall that I'm pointing at? I would like you to point your wand at one of those boxes, bring it down to this desk by saying, Descendo.
Descendo.
Oh. Interesting, but not exactly what we were looking for. Reparo! But you were doing very well, and we're getting closer. Wand made of elm, 13.5 inches long, inflexible, with a phoenix tail for the core. Alright, from right there, I would like you to water those flowers by waving your wand and saying, Aguamenti.
Aguamenti.
No, definitely not your wand. Curious. I wonder wand made of black walnut is excellent for a wizard who is outgoing, good for spells of creativity. And with a dragon heartstring core, your loyalties must be admired among your friends. If I may. Thank you. Yes. Please allow my assistant to answer all the questions and explain your wand options. But don't forget, this wand has chosen you, and you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand. Off you go this way.
And now I also ended up making my way to the Florian shop, which is the ice cream shop. For years, I have dreamed about, thought about every single day, and I've talked about the Butterbeer soft serve ice cream. Like, I have not had a flavor of ice cream better than this. And so I've thought about it ever since I had it 8 years ago for the first time. And this time I also decided to get it into a souvenir piece. Another one of those unique things I couldn't resist. And it's also made of plastic, not of glass, but the design was unique enough. I was like, this will be good to display as well. But here's the souvenir glass, if you will, right there. Like, that's something that I could potentially reuse as like a novelty thing, but just put on display in general. And it was just as amazing as I remember it. I also made my way to the Leaky Cauldron because there was a couple of other things that I wanted to try that I'd researched ahead of time. And of course, the Leaky Cauldron is another one of those places, just like the whole alley itself. It's true to scale in size and aesthetic. And again, you sit down at the table and you order through the app and you put in your table number. So what I ended up ordering, the hot butterbeer, never had it before, the regular butterbeer ice cream, which comes in a little cup. I wanted to balance out my temperatures. The ice cream in that version was pretty dang amazing, but the hot butterbeer was a truly unique butterbeer flavor. I would describe it as butterbeer and oatmeal had a baby and it was a match made in heaven. Like, I think this might be my new favorite butterbeer beverage. So yeah, and so I definitely took a little longer to sip on that, not just because it was hot, but because I wanted to savor it. And that cream combining with the drink itself, oh my gosh. Go over some of the prices real quick here. The hot butterbeer and ice cream together was $17.55. Souvenir soft serve ice cream was $10.11. The keychain was $15.98. The journal and the stationery together was $47.93. So I ended up making a whole loop around the entire park, and it was getting to about late morning at this point because I think the park opened at 9 a.m. and I wanted to make the most of everything that there was to see there, especially because I had to leave by 5 o'clock, which was not my choice, by the way. That was something I was kind of talking about earlier, where the whole point I booked this trip in the middle of September was to avoid Halloween festivities that they do every year for the Halloween Horror Nights where they have all the haunted houses. And so I kind of feel like when I booked the tickets back in May, they should have at least notified me that it was still going to be a Halloween Horror Night evening in the middle of September for some reason. Or maybe at least, reduce the ticket price a little bit since I only get from between 9 a.m. to 5 anyway. Unlike with Epic where I got 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if you ever try to book in September, just be mindful of that. At that particular park in Diagon Alley, you may not get the entire day. Unless, of course, you pay extra for the Halloween Horror Nights. After that, I went into a building, and that is a museum of sorts that is full of all kinds of outfits, props, and some sets that were from the Wicked movie. There was even a broom that you could pose next to. And they even had a setup of the wizard's control panel for the big mechanical automaton head that he operates to talk to people. I encountered the mystery machine, and there just happened to be Scooby and Shaggy over there. And then I walked a little further and ran into this guy.
Paulina! I'm not saying hello to you. Coming and taking it's not a photo shoot. It's a one and done kind of situation. We can't hold that forever. Date night. Called chemistry.
In hindsight, I really wish I would have interacted with him because that would have been so funny. But, you know, you live and you learn. I mean, he's really, really good. But I made my way back to Diagon Alley because it was getting close to lunchtime at this point, and I still had things on my list of foods that I wanted to try. So I ended up back at the Leaky Cauldron, and I got this chicken sandwich. On top of that, I got the Butterbeer potted cream, and that was pretty good too. Like, not my favorite, but, you know, it's not something to shortchange either. And on top of that, I got the fizzy orange juice, which has, like, cinnamon rimmed around the edge too, because it sounded interesting enough to try. Like, nothing compares to the lavender lemonade, but it was still pretty good. All three of those things together ended up costing me $32.98. And I know I'm acting crazy now, but I ended up fitting a second run through on the Gringotts ride again. And apparently that one like broke down for a moment as well too, but they got it up and running pretty quick. I ended up making my way to, I think it's the Sugar Plums sweet shop. And it's there I was able to find the Butterbeer fudge that I've heard so much about. And let me tell you, that was worth it for sure. Like, I still think about that now. If I ever get the opportunity to come back to these parks, I'm gonna have such a long list of foods to buy again, it's not even funny. Now, it was my intention to leave at 4 o'clock in order to beat the traffic and the crowd and everything and the Halloween Horror Nights crowd coming in. But as I was standing in line at Florian's, 4 o'clock hit, and then suddenly these green lights like turned on in random places and this ominous soundtrack started playing. And I was like, okay, this is different, because the last time I was here was like 2016. This didn't happen last time, and I actually stayed for the Halloween Horror Nights then. And then out of nowhere, Death Eaters come out. And they're intermingling with the crowd, and like the outfits were like incredibly detailed. And I was like, well, guess I'm gonna stay for the next hour too, because I'm definitely not gonna miss this.
If you assist us, we will speak well of you to the Dark Lord. Death Eaters, seek those who are loyal, those who would serve the Dark Lord, and gather them near Grigorovich's. It isn't too late to join the Dark Lord. Here, those who are willing must be tested. We will provide all that you need. Will you carry out the Dark Lord's wishes? Death Eaters, test their strength.
Once that concluded and the Death Eaters made their exit, it was getting close to 5 o'clock, so I just kind of took that time to walk back around the different alleys and look at the storefronts and just take in the scenery one last time. And with one final look, I made my exit and the park closed as I was leaving. So I exited the actual Universal Studios park and I was back on the City Walk, which is kind of the main entrance area with restaurants and stores. And I happened to walk by this one Universal store, happened to catch a glimpse of a couple things in there. I was like, you know what? I'll check this place out. It looks unique. It looks interesting. Turns out I was right. Immediately when I walked in, there was this genuine leather suitcase that was obviously very antique, very old, and it looked so much like Newt's suitcase. I was like, that's really cool. And there was even some Hogwarts tapestries painted on the walls in some of these sections. It was a very large Harry Potter merch area. And it also shared space with yet another Butterbeer bar with barrels in the back, mirrors with menu items on it. I was like, it was so cool. I thought I was done buying things, but I happened to spot one particular item that I had not seen in any of the stores that I had seen up to this point. So unique, in fact, that even with the price, I could not resist. And here's why. It seems to be very difficult to find genuine prints or models or sculptures that show every single spire and shape that Hogwarts has become currently, the current design. All you can seem to find are the older designs from like the first few movies. So yeah, if anyone's watching, if anyone comes up with a sculpture, a full 3D scale model of the current design from Hogwarts, like from Hogwarts Legacy, for example, like you just automatically have my my money. And so when I saw this, I just had to jump at the opportunity to purchase it, because this one actually for once seems to show all of the individual design elements of Hogwarts in and of its fullness as it is now. I apologize for the reflection of the ring light, so I'll try and move it around so you can see it as best you can. And yes, of course, I'm recording on my iPhone because we're all about budget here, okay, people? I don't have $1,000 to $3,000 to drop on the proper camera needed to do all of this. Fight me. Yeah, the frame is not included. I had to purchase that from Hobby Lobby because I wanted one that was totally see-through, and I'll show you why here in a second. But I wanted to protect this print as best as possible. But yeah, look at that. Just look at how unique that design is, how they were able to incorporate every part of it, and a little bit of influence from the Marauders map as well. But here's why I got the totally see-through frame, because it also comes with a certificate of authenticity that I wanted to showcase on the backside, because this print is designed by Mina Lima, and if I ever get the opportunity to meet them, I might just pack this in the suitcase to get them to sign, among other things. Especially when what I've seen, like the two of them seem to be genuinely good people, and they're just so nice to everybody from what I've seen online. And if I haven't mentioned it already, the print itself cost $52.19. So then I made my official exit of the park. You know, again, feeling that feelings of, okay, I'm ready for the next part of the trip, but also really sad to leave, because I absolutely enjoy being in these places and around people that love the same things that I do, which I don't get very often because I have very minimal exposure to the actual Harry Potter fan community. None of the friends that I've made over the years enjoy Harry Potter to the degree that I do, so they're not very relatable in that aspect. Not that that's a huge part of our friendships to begin with, but yeah, enough about that. So this next part of the trip I'm going to summarize pretty quick, because I feel that this part of the trip was more so for me and less for YouTube, because I have a couple of friends that had moved down to Florida that used to live in North Carolina with me. And so part of the trip was going to visit them because it's been 2 years since I've seen them. And so I had a few hours drive to where they live. Just for the heck of it, we're going to say that they live in Tampa, just to give you an idea of the areas that we explored after that. I ended up spending about 5 days with these friends. It was really this part of the trip that I realized I needed more than anything else, was this kind of mental reset. These particular friends have really gotten into like motivational stuff. Like they've started self-proclaiming themselves as my life coaches, as a bit of a joke. It was through this trip that I finally realized like how wrong I was looking at quite a few things and how differently I could look at them. And I went from the majority of a year where I've been kind of drifting along, feeling sad and depressed because of some things that had happened, to finally feeling a little bit more motivation again, or at least finding a motivation in myself that I forgot that I had. By the end of the trip, I felt so ready to just like tackle things again, and I feel like I had lost that throughout the year. I personally believe that everybody needs a couple of friends like them in their lives, because they really they change everything for you. I remember thinking to myself across those 5 days several times, like, I'm so lucky to have friends like these, because honestly, I don't know like what I would do or where I would be if I didn't have them to kind of change my mindset and to help me see things differently from what I had been. And so that was really nice, like really and truly the trip that I needed. But in summary, some of the things that we did while we were there, they're also very exercise driven as well. But I basically went with them and their family, and we went bike riding through trails. We had pool days, quite a bit of like homemade cooking. Like there was a night that they taught me how to genuinely make pasta and all that. So that was really neat. And a lot of their friends were super nice too. Like one of them even lended me one of their bikes in order to do the bike riding on those trails. We also ended up making a Costco run. Also had Costco soft serve ice cream for the first time. Like, I can't believe I'd went so many years without trying that. Further exposing me to new experiences, this was also the first time that I have ever worked out in a Planet Fitness. And yes, not that they used it, but the lunk alarm is real. I saw it up there on the wall. Yeah, say what you want about Planet Fitness, and I've certainly ripped on Planet Fitness over the years. Like, I call it the gym that takes in all the people that you don't want at your gym, because it seems like a lot of the crazy online videos that you see, most of them seem to come from Planet Fitness. You know, especially, and people don't like Planet Fitness a lot of the time because of the way that they do business. But I will say, it was a very clean gym. More so near the kind of Tampa area, Treasure Island. There was a Mediterranean-oriented market called Mazzaro's, and when you walk, even outside of this place, like the overall aesthetic is just different. There's all kinds of statues and murals that you can take pictures with, and on the inside, like it legit looks like you walked into a market from overseas. And there was a deli, a bakery, a winery, and all kinds of other miscellaneous things. We ended up getting some sandwiches, like I got the Italian sub, but we also got a lot of the bakery items. After that, we headed over to Treasure Island to Sunset Beach, and it's still dealing with some damage from some past hurricanes that have recently come through. So there was a lot of buildings that still had piles of sand in them, just from where the water washed everything in. And from what they told me, where we ended up setting up on the beach, there used to be a bunch of greenery there that's no longer there. It was still beautiful to see, and I found it kind of interesting because I've never seen the Gulf before. And I even made the comment, I said, how funny is it that the first time I see the Gulf, it's of America and not of Mexico? Like that was a really interesting feeling. But the water was absolutely gorgeous, the most pretty blue or turquoise that you'll ever see. We stayed there for the sunset, took some pictures. While we were sitting there even, I got a pretty long video. This whole like army of dolphins came swimming by. On another day, we made a trip to Tarpon Springs. And for those that don't know, Tarpon Springs is kind of like a port, like small town. Their claim to fame is basically sponge harvesting. And so what they do, all these people that own the stores throughout there have boats. They go out into the Gulf and they scuba dive down and they harvest sponges off of the ocean floor. And like from what they explained, it's a totally renewable resource. They can basically harvest a sponge this big, and within a year it grows back to about that size. But let me tell you, every store had something sponge related. Sponges that you use for cleaning dishes, makeup removing, like they had them in all sorts of sizes. They had sponge vases. We checked out a lot of the stores there. All kinds of other fun, knick-knacky stores, like stuff that you probably wouldn't necessarily buy from, but just cool to kind of walk around and see. We ended up eating lunch at a restaurant called Hella's, which is a Greek-inspired restaurant. It's a restaurant slash bakery. And so my friend was like, you got to get the full experience. You got to try all the foods here and buy some of these baked goods. So that's what we ended up doing. And we tried this flaming cheese appetizer where the waitress, I think her name was Terry, and she was amazing too. Like she was very knowledgeable on the area and different things that you could do, and super nice, would sit there and have a conversation with you about all kinds of different things. And she actually ended up setting it on fire with you standing there, which is like a big thing that they do. And we also shared a platter that had a bunch of different style Greek foods on it, so you can kind of get a taste of everything. To double back for a second, the nice part about Hella's is that they have their own designated parking, and you get free parking for the day if you dine at their restaurant when you go to park there. Ended up making it for the last dolphin boat tour of the day, because we missed the first two. So we ended up going for the Sponge-O-Rama dolphin boat tour, and I was like, please let me pay for this one, because y'all have paid for so much of everything that we've done so far. Just please let me pay for this one thing for us to do. 2 tickets on that ended up costing me about $57.21. And they give you this little souvenir bag. You basically go through this inlet. You might see dolphins, you might not. That's kind of the thing. But they go to this island out in the Gulf where you can get down on the beach and actually go hunting for seashells. And it's at this beach that you can actually find some pretty good sized conch shells. And I actually did end up finding some really good sized ones and even some sand dollars. And I was like, there's no way that people are looking that hard for as many that I found that were a pretty good size. The thing about that is that you only get 30 minutes on the island before the boat leaves. So you want to make sure that you're back on the boat in time for them to head back out into the water. It was on our way back. Mind you, there is somebody that's giving you all kinds of facts about the area and about dolphins especially. But it was on our way back that we actually spotted a dolphin. And so the tour stopped and took a little bit longer than what it would have so that we could watch the dolphins swim around. It was just a nice way to cap off the Tarpon Springs portion of our trip. Now, when we got back on land, we ended up going back to Hella's, this time to the bakery, and of course bought a whole bunch of baked goods there. And there's a bunch of layered cakes there that are apparently called pastas. I wonder if that's like a reference to like lasagna or something like that. I don't know. I've done zero research. But let me tell you, the Reese's pasta was absolutely fantastic. For my final full day, we found this little roadside stand called Moore Market. And basically it's this family that does a bunch of baked goods like cake pops, cookies, jalapeno cheddar bread. It works off the honor system. And yes, there's a camera there. We're not going to talk about that. But you go up and you make your selections and you drop money in the money box. We ended up going to this lady's house that they knew. And she was so nice. She loaned us her kayaks. You walk to the backyard of this house and she has got quite literally a river in her backyard. The most beautiful bright blue and turquoise that you will ever see. And like there were shallow parts and deeper parts, but it was so clear you could see the bottom no matter how deep it got. This is your backyard. People pay good money to have views like this. There was all kinds of like lizards and geckos, giant grasshoppers. This place really felt like something out of a fantasy book. Like it just didn't seem real. But we ended up kayaking upriver. Now it was low tide, so we were fighting quite the current. But what was really neat about this part of the trip was that we actually got to see manatees. And let me tell you, these guys are massive. Like I can totally see how people get knocked out of their kayaks if they disturb them. We even spotted a mama manatee with its baby. Oh my gosh, so cute. Now there was a point where we went so far upstream that the water became less than knee deep for like a really long stretch, and we never got to the other end of that stretch. But I remember just kind of paddling along and I caught movement out the corner of my eye, and I remember thinking like, wow, that is a really big fish. Oh my god, it's an otter. So yeah, for real. And I could not get my phone out fast enough to get a good enough video or picture of this guy, but sure as the world, this otter like had something in its mouth and swam really fast right next to me. But the overall look of this place was just absolutely beautiful. And it was getting close to dinner time by the time we turned around and started heading back, and which was really nice because this time we just got to ride the current back. It was a really nice and peaceful way to, round up the trip. And so we made our way back to my friend's house, and I did a little side quest to the Circle K gas station, fuel up my tank, because at this point I was pretty much close to empty now after my trip leaving Orlando. The gas ended up costing me $76 even, and all of this was to prepare for the next day. So the following morning, and what is the final day of my trip, I'd already gotten all my souvenirs and luggage and everything packed together all nice and neat, ready to go the night before. But said my final goodbyes to everybody. It was really great to see them, like I said. But I ended up leaving their house while it was still dark. It was probably about 6 a.m. I meant to get up at 5, but that just didn't happen. It was then that I made the 5.5 hour drive from Tampa all the way to Savannah, Georgia. And the reason I made Savannah one of my stops was because I'm a huge PewDiePie fan, and he did a vlog where his family vacationed in part in Savannah, Georgia. And some places that they stopped at was like, well, I really want to try that, so I'm gonna do it. And it was along the way. It was one of the many reasons why I made it a road trip instead of flying down to Florida. And so it was a pretty painful experience trying to find parking because it was a little confusing in some ways. So by the time I was able to find a parking deck that I could get into, I walked down to the street, and my goal was just to find a open restaurant because it was getting close to about lunchtime at this point. My goal was to find an open restaurant with a bathroom because I was literally about to pop. And so the restaurant that ended up winning that lottery was Trailer Park, which is a fun little restaurant close to the water that basically is open from the very front all the way to the back, where it opens up onto the back alley. Really amazing tacos. That ended up costing me $25.62. I made the walk to Chippewa Square, which for those that don't know, that is the filming location for the bench scene in the Forrest Gump movie. Unfortunately, and what I think is a major missed opportunity on Savannah's part, the actual bench they used is in a museum, yes, but they could have totally made a replica bench with at least like a statue of Forrest sitting on the bench that you could sit next to and take pictures. I'm giving this, really good tourist information to your city planners for free, by the way. You're welcome. It was then that I backtracked the way that I came to check out an ice cream shop, and this is one of the things that I saw PewDiePie and Marcia do that really made me interested in visiting Savannah. Savannah, and that is Leopold's Ice Cream Parlor, which is apparently like a super famous ice cream place. It's very vintage, really cool to kind of walk around in there. I got the Cookie 2 flavor. I highly recommend that one. That one cost me $10.29. By this point, I think I was pretty well tired and I was just ready to get the trip done, so I spent maybe all of 45 minutes in total in Savannah. It ended up taking me out a direction I didn't come in. I looked to my right while I was still in the streets when I'm driving and saw this ginormous, super tall bridge that was like super skinny as well, mind you. Little did I know I was about to drive on it. And when it took me up, like, you feel like you're on the top of the world, and it was honestly very nerve-wracking to drive on this skinny bridge, to be so high up and over water. Like, I was very nervous until I finally got back down to the land. While I was driving down this bridge, I happened to look over my shoulder to the right, and I took in this amazing middle of the day sunlight view of like the cityscape itself, and even saw the gold dome of what I assume was the Savannah Capitol building. All of it together was just absolutely amazing for the few seconds that I got to take it in. Like, I wish I could have gotten a picture of that. Another funny thing is that as soon as you get off of that bridge, you immediately cross the South Carolina state line. I was like, oh my gosh, that happened quick. I basically drove 2.5 hours from Savannah to my final stop, my second Buc-ee's visit. It was because I had a necessary fuel up stop that I needed to make. And this is the one time that my gas light came on throughout the entire vacation. And it was 5 miles away from that Buc-ee's. And so that brings the fuel up total to 3 different times on this trip. And this fuel up ended up costing me $63 even, and ended up being the final expense of this entire trip. The interesting thing about the drive from Buc-ee's back to home, it didn't put me back on the highway that I just came off of that Buc-ee's was right next to. So I was like, well, that's weird. But it took me down this really weird back way. But I emerged out onto this road that looked familiar, and I was like, I know these buildings. Like, how did I get here? It was an old route that we used to take to go visit Myrtle Beach all the time. So then I immediately knew how to get home without GPS, which ended up being another couple of hours of driving. Finally arrived home, and I went to visit with my parents, showed them all the pictures of everything, and gave them the gifts that I got them. So that was a really nice way to kind of round up the trip. I wasn't as tired as I thought I was going to be, thankfully, having been in a vehicle for literally 9.5 hours in one day. That was also a part of the plan. Knock out all of that, because that particular day was the next to last day in my time off from work. And so I left an entire day after that open for me to just rest and recuperate from everything. So there you have it. That is my Florida trip from beginning to end and all the stops in between. I told you I was going to total up everything that everything cost me. I divided it up in a couple of different categories. What I called unavoidable or needs expenses, which is basically all the food, the gas fuel ups, ended up costing me around $1,647.96. That's not including souvenirs. The souvenirs and all the places that I visited was around maybe a little bit more than $261.03. So that brings an overall total of $1,908.99. Now, like I said, there were some expenses that I made that I wasn't able to fully account for. And so just to get really crazy with it, let's just round all of that up between $2,000 and $2,300, just to kind of have a bit of margin for error there. And so that should give you an idea of how much it may cost you in order to do this for yourself. Every bit of it was 100% worth it, and I think everybody else should too. And at the end of the day, I not only got to see old friends, but I got to meet new people and make new experiences, new memories. That was the overall point of this entire trip. And also just see what else there is out there. So I hope this video wasn't too boring or too long-winded, and I hope you guys enjoyed following along with me throughout my adventure in the southern states. Already looking forward to the next adventure, because this was so much fun, and I'm glad that I went out on my own and did this and was just independent with it, and just took the time to do it and accomplish it, because that was rewarding in and of itself, because I'd never done anything like this before, especially where I literally did everything myself. So like I said, I'm looking forward to the next trips that I'm looking at. So I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek to what I'm kind of conceptualizing here. I'm looking at planning a trip to New York City to visit all kinds of locations like Ground Zero, a lot of the fire stations and other notable areas, and of course the Harry Potter shop. I'm also looking at maybe adding Chicago in order to visit a couple of spots in there, and also the Harry Potter shop that's in Chicago. Hopefully that will be the next step. And if I can't make those work, there's another trip that I'm looking at that I'm not going to say what it is yet, that involves a bit of international travel that I've already bought a passport cover for that I may do first. We're just going to have to see. That's all the sneak peek that you're going to get for now, because I'm not going to make any promises because I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it just yet. I'm still in the planning phase. But now that I have the confidence of doing this trip and it being the success that it was, maybe I can finally figure these other ones out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.